Hey guys, welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Nick and Steve. I said my name first today, Steve, just for a different.
Well, you want to know why it's your name first? Because we're talking about a disease that you're more likely to get than I am.
That's good. That's very true. That's a very good. You do such good segues.
It was a fluke.
It was a fluke.
It was a fluke. But yeah,
that's true though.
Women get more of this disease than men do. Yet I've got this disease.
Well, yes, technically you do.
Shit, that's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Am I identifying as a girl? No, none of that stuff. None of that stuff. All right. So, what are we talking about today, Nick?
Autoimmunity today. Steve.
Autoimmunity, yourself getting attacked by your own immune system.
That's right.
How dumb is your own immune system to attack yourself?
Well, yeah, I mean, it had its good intentions.
I know. Because everyone talks about immunity and always talking about boosting the immune system up higher and get your immune system up. Because immune cells kills viruses, kills bacteria, kills cancer cells, fungus, all this sort of stuff. So the immune system's good.
Yep.
But then it turns into our enemy.
It can be bad. It can
friendly
turn on
fire.
Us. That's right. Yeah, exactly. It can get a bit confused.
Gets a bit confused.
Start turning on itself. Yes.
Autoimmunity is when the immune system attacks yourself. And there's so many autoimmune diseases.
There's a lot. Around 100 now that identified.
There's about 100.
There's a lot.
There's loads of them. I mean, some of the most important ones like rheumatoid arthritis. It's incredible.
Yeah.
There's lupus, there's MS, SLE, all these letters, AS.
Hashimoto's, celiac, diabetes type 1.
Yep.
Sjogren's.
Sjogren's, yep. And there's psoriasis, that's kind of autoimmunity. Even
endometriosis, even they're saying possibly. Possibly autoimmune, possibly.
So almost every tissue in your body can be attacked by your own immune system.
Yeah.
How bad is that?
Can be bad for the person with an autoimmune condition.
Definitely.
Oh,
it is. I used to have one.
You did? You used being the obvious word, and we will talk all about your experience.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's an overactivation of the immune system in the wrong areas attacking your own tissue.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's talk about it. So what we want really is a balanced immune system, don't we? We don't want a high immune system. We don't want a good immune system. We want a balanced immune system.
Yes, we don't want overstimulated immune system, because then that's autoimmunity. So then that's autoimmune problems, and then allergic reactions, so like food sensitivities and allergies, the asthmas and things like that, if it's overstimulated. And then if it's understimulated or suppressed, then we have things like cancers, infections like molds, fungus, viruses and things like that. Yeah. So, the people that say, and this is probably old now that people have heard it so many times, is I never get sick. I haven't been sick in 10 years. Well, they're the ones you really need to be concerned about, because their immune system's not actually firing at all. Therefore, they may have infections, they may have cancers, and their immune system's not responding. So therefore, any sort of infection or virus or anything like that, it's the virus and the bacteria that they create. That's the immune system's reaction to those that creates the symptoms.
Yes.
So if your immune system's not reacting, a lot of times you have no symptoms. So
exactly. The cold and flu things that you may be getting when you feel the symptoms, that's your immune system.
That's right. So someone says, everyone in my family gets sick, I never get sick, so I must have a great immune system. Well, actually probably have a pretty crappy immune system.
You should be.
So that's the other side of the coin. We're not really talking about that today. No. We're talking more about overstimulation of the immune system, then turning into autoimmune condition and attacking its own tissue.
So we've got these sort of bosses of the immune system. There's three parts: T helper 1, T helper 2, and T helper, not 3, 17.
Yeah.
Like a bit random, isn't it? Like, who the hell made that up?
I know.
Because T helper, we used to think T helper 3 was the mediator of it all, but it was T helper 0. But T helper 17, and I know T helper 17 very well because I have shitloads of it.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Too much of it.
Yeah.
But let's go through them. What's T helper 1? What's its primary role? Because there's good and bad and all.
Definitely.
You want T helper 1, you want T helper 2, you want T helper 17.
Yes.
You don't want too much of them. You don't want too little of them. But what does T helper 1 do in the body?
Yeah, so this is involved in cell-mediated immunity. So this is more intracellular, so things inside that get inside the cell, so pathogens, so viruses. And bacteria and things like that. So they produce cytokines such as interferon gamma, tumor necrosis factor alpha, And these sort of activate macrophages and cytotoxic T cells that go out and eliminate these bacteria, these viruses, and clean everything up, right?
Okay, so sounds good. We want loads of that, do we?
Well, we don't want too much of it.
Well, what happens if you have too much of it?
So if you have
the whole
too
podcast,
much,
yeah.
that's right, too much T helper 1.
Yep.
So then that can lead to autoimmune conditions, things like MS. So it sort of is more involved in those organ-specific diseases.
So MS is multiple sclerosis, and you get the T helper 1 immunity attacking the myelin, like the electrical insulation of the brain cells.
Yeah. That's right.
So this is, and you see people with MS, they go through waves, good, bad, and eventually it just gets all bad.
Yeah.
And you really can't walk and move and literally kills you.
That's right. Yeah. It's
and I remember as a kid doing the MS readathons. Did you ever do that?
Yes, I used to do that.
Oh, you did that?
Oh, yeah, I'm that age too, Steve.
Jeez. is it still going?
I don't. Sadly, I don't think so.
I should have Googled this shit before. Yeah. And so the MS readathon was you read a book, and every time you read a book, you write it in a little logbook, and somebody would sponsor you and give you $1 per book or 20 cents per book.
Yeah.
And you gave it all to MS research. Now, I was about 6 or 7, so that's 50 years ago I was doing the MS readathon.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did it. It was amazing.
MS is still not cured or adequately treated. You still end up with the same progression. Yeah, there's treatments.
Yeah.
And you can get better. And MS occurs mainly in women.
It does
mainly.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you can't get it as a man, but mainly. So that's a T helper 1 mediated condition.
That's right.
Of the, and that's really quite bad.
It can be quite bad, yeah. So that's T helper 1. And then T helper 2.
Yep.
So these ones are more involved in humoral immunity. So that things like producing antibodies from B cells.
Yeah, antibodies are like the IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE, and IgD.
That's
my God, I remember the 5 of them. How the hell do I remember that? IgE, too much of that, you get allergies.
That's right.
Too much IgG, you can get autoimmunity, other tissue things.
Yeah.
So what conditions are associated with T helper 2 excess?
So things like lupus.
Yep.
Graves' disease.
Thyroid condition, yep.
Yes, there's a thyroid condition. There's some of the ones that it can actually
They're very systemic diseases. So SLE stands for systemic lupus erythematosus or lupus.
Yeah.
And that gives you all sorts of conditions all throughout the body, mainly in women again.
It is mainly women again. We'll talk about reasons why that might be.
Yeah, I got a paper on that.
Yeah.
It's literally titled, the paper we'll talk about later, is why women have more autoimmune diseases than men, an evolutionary perspective. And this is interesting because there's not many diseases that women get more than men.
No, that's true, actually. That is true.
I mean, we get more prostate cancer.
Well, yeah, strangely. Can't think why.
No, I can't think why. But that's why men don't live as long, and we have more cancers and shit like that.
Cardiovascular issues.
Cardiovascular disease, death.
Don't go to the doctor, which is a big thing. If you've got an issue.
We're arrogant, stupid shits most of the time when it comes to our health. We don't care. We're more obese.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, look, it's a train wreck. We even have more mental health. In regards to we suicide more.
That's true too. That's true. Yeah.
Like 3 and 4 suicides are men.
Yeah, because men don't think they can speak up because it emasculates them, so they think, and a lot of issues around that.
It's terrible. But at least, well, not at least, I don't know if it's bad or good, but women get more autoimmune diseases. And there's
I don't think it's good.
No. There's nothing
to ask
good.
That to any woman.
But women have better immune systems.
That's true, yeah.
Because they have to rear an offspring and give antibodies to the kid and all sorts of stuff. So and estrogen is more potently boosting the autoimmunity. So women do get more autoimmune disease in men for that very reason.
Yeah.
And that's what that paper basically says. So I'll skip that over now.
I've done that, yeah.
So and then we've got T helper 17, not T helper 3.
Right. Yeah, very random. Yeah.
Very random.
So this one is discovered, it's relatively newly discovered.
Yep.
So this one plays a big role in inflammation,
Yep.
and autoimmune responses and things. You would know all about that.
We're going to get to that.
Yeah, definitely.
I do know. So okay, so T helper 17. What is it? What a disease are associated with?
They are associated with IBD, inflammatory bowel diseases. Can be one of them. Rheumatoid arthritis is another one.
Yep.
Psoriasis.
Yeah.
Ankylosing spondylitis, probably.
Oh, probably.
That basically a lot of that inflammatory drive and that sort of thing is what this is involved in, leading to that autoimmunity. So they're the 3 main players when we're talking about immunity and that sort of thing. So,
and today we're talking about Not so much the role of them, the good role, the bad role of them.
Yeah.
It's autoimmune disease.
That's right. And we're going to be going into, what drives autoimmunity? What triggers it?
What are some of the triggers?
Yeah, so we're going to go through some of the causes that can lead to autoimmune conditions.
There's genetic components, I'm sure.
There is definitely genetic components that can be a big one.
Yep.
So gene variants like your HLA-DR4 and HLA-DQ8.
Yep.
They can make you more predisposed to getting an autoimmune condition. Obviously just because you have the genetic profile does not mean you will get one.
Right.
It's the epigenetic factors that can switch, that turn it on, turn it off, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. HLA stands for human leukocyte antigen, just for those people playing along at home. There's different variants of that.
There is, yeah.
And there's human leukocyte antigen B27, which I'm positive for. It's funny, there's a story about that because I used to have ankylosing spondylitis, which is a TLP17 autoimmune disease. And
let's just say used to, because autoimmune conditions cannot be cured apparently.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, all right, I didn't go to the gym this morning and do legs and everything. And But yeah, I mean, there's the thing with that one is that when I was, I told my doctor years ago, and she said, "Oh, no, you haven't got AS. It's not, you can't, you wouldn't have the gene because you're not sick. You're too healthy. You can run." And because AS sufferers are crippled over, hunchback. You had an AS friend, didn't you?
I did. One of my best friends, her mother had AS, and she was at the point where she progressed very quickly, and she couldn't stand up straight. She had to walk with a walker. Progressed to a wheelchair, and then she was bedbound, couldn't even walk at all. Which is, pretty sad. Really, very bad decline. Yeah.
Oh, it's a shit disease. When I got it when I was 20. Again, it was very difficult to diagnose back then because it was, I woke up and I had a sore back.
Yeah.
Like, you idiot, what did you do?
And in your 20s, of course, you're not going to say, well, it's just arthritis.
It's arthritis, crazy.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctors. I remember it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday, and I went to the doctors, and there was one open and one near me. And it was my GP, lucky he worked on Sundays. And, he gave me some anti-inflammatories. And gave me a week off work. And I went, oh, my God, a week off work? What am I going to do with the week? I didn't think this thing was going to, it was like a sore back. Yeah. It was just weird pain. It was a weird, awful, sort of like someone had grabbed my back and squashed it. It was a weird, it wasn't like a pulled muscle or anything. It was just weird. It was low.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went there and I went home and lay on the couch and rested up, took the drugs. Feldene was the drug I think I was on there. It's not standard anti-inflammatory. And then I, over the next few days got a hell of a lot worse. And then by Tuesday I ended up in hospital.
Wow.
Because weird shit happened to me. My knee swelled.
Yeah, right.
From lying on the couch. My foot went red.
Yeah.
Like hot red.
Yeah.
Like weird shit. Yeah. 1 foot.
Yeah.
This was weird shit. And the doctor made a house call back when they did. I said, I'm going to go to hospital. This is just weird. And I went to hospital and I was in Sandringham Hospital near where I lived, and that pain was in my back was horrendous. So they x-rayed me and nothing wrong.
Of course.
Nothing wrong with my back. So the specialist came around and said, you'll be right. Friday, go home. And I was feeling like shit. I was really feel bad. So they said, just have a shower and, we'll release you. And I was in the shower, passed out because of the pain.
Wow.
Like I had to press the button. There's buzzers in showers.
Yeah.
And so I realized all these female nurses came in, me naked in the shower, crumpled up. I literally.
Just like 20-year-old boy wants.
Just for, it's a bit of a dream in a lot of cases, but it's not, it wasn't then. I was just in so much pain, I didn't give a shit. Anyway, so they wheeled me out the front. My mum picked me up on.
So they still took you out?
Yeah, even though I passed out in the shower. Because I'm 20. I'm healthy. Like, what's wrong with you? Sore back, you wuss. Yeah. Anyway, so I went home and just got worse and worse. And on Tuesday, I had to come back and see one of the another different doctor. It's an outpatient thing at the hospital. And I was as sick as a dog. I couldn't walk. I was getting carried around. Both knees were swollen. And I was really sick. So anyway, I was told then to go direct to the Alfred Hospital up in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And when I was in Alfred Hospital, I was there for 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Like 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
I was sick as a dog. Like I felt ratchet. Like, I was feverish. I was like real sick shit. Didn't know what was wrong. And then finally I saw someone there and they kept draining fluid off my knees every day, come around. Stupid doctors who were training was sucking shit out of my knee every day, injecting it with steroids and real sick. Yeah. Real sick. Yeah. And lost a lot of weight. And, then they did that gene test, the HLA-B27, positive, and then figured out, it's AS, ankylosing spondylitis, because they did a different scan on me.
Okay.
Which was like a they do put you like a radioactive potassium, which tracks to your white blood cells, and they find out where all your white blood cells are hanging out.
Yeah.
And my X-rays were completely normal, but on this scan, it was real sacroiliac joint pain, knees in my sternum. There was like nodules here.
Yeah, right.
I had lumps in my chest.
Wow.
Like little hard, painful, and they showed up.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they thought I was faking it until this test. And I had this AS and I had one wrist that was swollen up. It was a little like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, wow.
And so then they just, oh, shit. So I stayed in there and I was on all sorts of drugs in there.
Yeah, right.
About 6 weeks later, got out. Still couldn't walk or go back to work or anything. But
And what was their, what was their sort of direction as to what you did
easy.
to treat it?
Anti-inflammatory drugs. Because you got to, back then, when I was 20, the most potent anti-inflammatory was Oritus, Feldene, and there was indomethacin. And I was on Oritus, which is sustained release. Because the worst thing about AS and what I knew is the mornings were the worst. So I'd have codeine phosphate in the morning and I'd chew the tablets when I was at home because they were painkillers and take indomethacin. So the pain would get me enough to get to the shower to heat up. But here's the weird thing about this condition is sometimes by the afternoon I was pain-free.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was told not to exercise. And now the opposite's true.
Yeah.
But it was incredible. And, I didn't – and I suffered with this thing for 6 years.
Yeah.
I was like, from 20 to 26, I had good days, I had bad days. I had pain, I had no pain. And it was night was better, the mornings were shit. So I became a bit of nocturnal.
Yeah.
And, I was a muso back then too, so you can imagine.
I can imagine.
And so it was just a weird part of my life. And exercise helped it. Like I'd always feel better. And you know what else helped it? Having X-rays.
Really?
I'd have relief for 2 or 3 days.
Really?
Yep.
The radiation.
The radiation killed the immunity.
Yeah, of course.
It kills the immune system.
Yeah.
I didn't know this shit.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'd go have an X-ray and I even told the doctor, I said, the rheumatologist, I said, after the X-rays I feel better. And he goes, it might be the way you're laying on the beds. And it's like,
my God.
Oh, no, this was a weird, back then when I'd eat pizza every Sunday night and Monday with my back was always the worst. And I said, is there something in pizzas that can upset your arthritis? No. So, I was eating it on the floor with my parents, my mum and my sister. I'd sit on the floor and eat pizza in the arvo, and the next day my back would hurt. So the doctor said, eat pizza at the table. No, you got to remember that the whole, this was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
No one knew anything about diet and arthritis and any of this stuff. We just think of it now as like a normal thing.
Yeah.
Back then there was no normal thing. And potatoes used to make my arthritis play up, or nightshades. But pieces
also
was
feeding a particular bacteria in your gut.
Oh, yeah, particular bacteria. That wasn't discussed back then.
Yeah, right.
And we now know that there's a bug gut that triggers all this.
Yeah, there is.
And it's called Klebsiella.
That's right. Yeah.
And I tested
Thrives
positive
on
for that.
starches.
Yeah. And so, look, I was eating wheat bix for breakfast because that was, quote, healthy.
Yeah.
So I was starch. I was eating all the wrong things.
Yeah.
And again, you're looking at me like, oh, Steve, you idiot. But back then, you're
back
like.
Then you do. I did back then too. And I have done a stool test in the past and had very high Klebsiella levels, but I don't have the genome.
You don't have
so
the
it didn't affect me.
HLA-B27, it's about 5% of people.
Yeah.
So, a lot of us have got that one.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And yes, autoimmune disease attacks women more, but AS attacks men more.
Yeah, that's right.
So young men. And if you've got anyone who's a young man in their 20s or something and you've got a lower back pain, it's sort of above your butt. I would lean up against something to push in there because there was something going on in there. And as you can see by the photo here I'm holding up here, the lower sacrum there, the red mark, that's where the pain was the worst.
Yeah, right.
And I swear, I felt like, doctors, you've got to open me up and get whatever's out of there. It felt like a lump and awful shit.
Yeah.
It was like that, there's something there.
Yeah.
And I had x-rays later on and that was all fused.
Wow.
So my sacrum but it's unfused now.
Has it unfused?
Unfused. I had an MRI of my spine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with my sacrum.
Amazing.
But my spine's a mess. Because of the degenerative changes. You can see a picture there. I'm pointing you about all the bamboo spine and shit. And the discs, there's some discs that have just eaten away because I had it for 6 years.
Yeah.
But I don't have pain.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a sore muscle now, a trigger point in my rhomboid. It's got nothing to do with my AS.
Yeah.
It's just a pain. I'm booked in the chiro and she'll and I'll be fine. But and the only thing that's left of my spine now is it's very straight. I've got no lumbar curve.
Okay.
A spine is supposed to have a few curves, and mine sort of doesn't.
Yeah.
And the neck is a little bit curved that way, but that's reverting back now. So
amazing.
But the disease was really weird, and there's a beautiful history of the disease. When the first evidence of AS was discovered, 1,500 BC in Egypt.
Wow.
All the mummies, there were some of them that had AS.
Oh, really?
Even I don't know if it was, it's like the Tutankhamun type people. The young men had AS back then.
Yeah, how fascinating.
Amazing.
Yeah, right.
Right, and when they're eating a lot of wheat over there and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It was first described by Hippocrates, described.
Yeah.
Early written descriptions of spinal inflexibility and pain were made by Hippocrates. And then in the 1400s, Callias, was the first to describe AS, where he was a neurologist, because there's nerve involvement too. And then when X-rays came invented in the 18th century, you could see this shit. And it was real bad.
Wow.
Distinct inflammatory disease. And it was officially diagnosed by Adolf Stumperl in 1897. And it's quite amazing because and as I said, I had an MRI recently because I had getting headaches and migraines, which are gone because I'm taking lithium, the mineral, not lithium, the bipolar medication, very, very low dose. And it just gets rid of it. But then I had in the hospital HLA-B27, but when I had my MRI, my spine is in bloody good nick.
Wow.
My head was perfect, so the headaches were, but he did it all the way down because neck can cause migraines and stuff. And there's a history. You can see my spine is, still there's disc degenerated out, but I don't have any pain in it because I exercise.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it?
It is.
Exercise is the key.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's my AS story, and it's quite interesting.
Super interesting. So you're like the poster boy for how to, how you can actually go into remission. Once you have an autoimmune condition, you always have an autoimmune condition, but you can be in remission.
Yeah, I'm in remission.
Yeah,
it's funny because when I was in my 20s, I was in a physiotherapy group for AS sufferers, and there was a whole bunch of us guys, a couple of girls, but mostly guys, and we're all bent because I was bent over like a question mark.
Yeah,
and it was just like the pain was immense. But that's when they started to recognise exercise as a benefit for AS.
Yeah,
and so that sort of got me into the big exercise thing because without it, I was screwed.
Yeah,
and it's funny because people are like, "Oh, I can't be bothered exercising." It's like, yeah.
Well, you can't not be bothered. How can you say that? Yeah, you can't. You have to be. I don't know how to say it. You can't not be bothered. It has to bother you. You have to do it. So yeah,
you need a motivation. So
yeah, so super interesting. So that genotype profile. So that HLA glitches can overactivate T helper 1 or T helper 17 cells.
Yes.
So that sparks inflammation against joints and organs and things like that. It's an epigenetic shift, so hypomethylation of immune genes, and we did a methylation podcast not long ago, which is probably out. So, if you're not methylating well, you can switch off or switch on genes. So that can also be a factor as well.
Yeah.
So, genetics is one driver.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah. Another driver is infections. So viruses and bacteria and things like this. So they can confuse the immune system.
Yep.
So by a process called molecular mimicry.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah, so that's when the molecular mimicry is when the body gets confused, and so the virus or the bacteria or that sort of thing has a very similar structure to our own cells. So the immune system will start off fighting those bacteria, and then it'll then tag anything that is very similar in structure, and attack that as well, being own tissue.
Yes.
So infections can be a big trigger for that. And it doesn't have to even be an identical sort of profile to our own tissue as well. So you can have sort of 5 out of, say, 7 of these sort of protein formations that are like our own tissue, and the body can still attack. So, for instance, Epstein-Barr virus.
Yeah, EBV, Epstein-Barr virus, and that's often, that's infectious mononucleosis, or
which
the
is
old kissing
very
disease.
common.
Very common.
A lot of people have this.
Yeah.
I got it when I was young. So that shares 6 amino acids sequence with the myelin basic protein.
Yeah.
So and then their T helper 1 cells, they prime by the Epstein-Barr virus. They spot this they spot the myelin basic protein on the neurons, and then they unleash that,
that's
inflammatory.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah, so very scary. So that can be a really big driver, types of viruses and things. So things like Epstein-Barr, as we said, so the diseases linked can be MS, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, when we're talking about Epstein-Barr virus. Cytomegalovirus is another virus. That's another really common one. Again, lupus, scleroderma can be ones that are quite common with the cytomegalovirus.
Yep. Be careful if you say next virus.
This hasn't been said for a long time. This
You can
is
say
back
it.
in the day. So the Coxsackie virus, B. Matt's laughing. This is, if you ever go back and listen
Are
to
you
a
making up that
very
word?
old podcast with Matt Legg, that was always a joke with you
He
guys,
would. You know how he'd pronounce it. I can't even say how he'd pronounce it. But it's a real virus. Usually, it's called hand, foot, and mouth disease in kids.
That's right. And interestingly, the disease link is type 1 diabetes. So kids, that have a child onset type 1 diabetes can be from the the Coxsackie virus. So. Hepatitis C, that's linked to Sjogren's syndrome and a few other things as well. So these viruses can be really problematic. And there's also another virus that's been around in the last, 4 years ago? 5.
That one.
That one, the big one that went right around the world. That one was very common for Hashimoto's and Graves'.
Ooh, so thyroid disorders.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a really strong connection with those viruses.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of autoimmune conditions came out of that era, that pandemic era as well, for particular treatments for that virus that was also handed out.
Those ones,
Go any further. So gut dysbiosis, this is a very strong driver.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, so whenever we're looking at autoimmune conditions, I will always look at the gut.
Yeah.
I generally would do a gut testing because it's such a big driver for many of the autoimmune conditions. So obviously you have a lot of bacteria, and obviously Klebsiella is one, Steve.
And that's in about 20% of people. We did a test here. We did a little trial on one of our products, and we tested the gut microbiomes before and after.
Yeah.
And Klebsiella was in 4 of the 23 people.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how common it is, about 20%.
Yeah, well, like I said, I had quite high levels of Klebsiella at one point as well. Yeah.
After gut treatment, the Klebsiella went to 0.
Yeah. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. I've treated Klebsiellas and things before. But starches will feed that. But yeah, so any sort of gut sort of dysbiosis or bacteria in the gut, there's quite a few. And leaky gut, so anything that creates gut hyperpermeability. So you're spilling that lipopolysaccharide, which is very inflammatory proteins and things into systemic circulation. Therefore, the immune system is going to, target that.
Oh, I know.
So then it also creates that immune overstimulation.
So in my case, I had a lot of zonulins in my diet, which are things that cause leaky gut.
That's right.
Like wheats, and that was I used to eat a lot of wheat. When I was a kid,
Yeah.
And we love something wheat. Anyway, so I used to eat a lot of wheat, for breakfast and lunch always. And that leaked my gut and leaked the Klebsiella out and cross-triggered with my weird immune system. HLA-B.
Right? And your
HLA-B27 is a positive thing in some instances too. Yes. Very low incidence of AIDS.
That's right.
And they found that there was a group of women in South Africa that were prostitutes, and they weren't getting AIDS, but some of them would. And one of the links was that HLA-B27 positive.
Oh, there you go. So there's always positives and negatives.
But I'm married now, so I don't give a shit about HIV. I worry about the AS more. But,
that's true. That's true. Yeah. So bacteria. So there's different bacteria and things. So the gut dysbiosis, we might come back to that with the leaky gut and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But that's a really big one. And as I said, I always test the gut because it can be a significant driver for a lot of people's autoimmune conditions.
I always wonder, when you go to a rheumatologist that treats, do they look at the gut?
No, they'll send you to a gastroenterologist. And then the gastroenterologist will maybe send you back to the rheumatologist because you've got joint pain.
Yeah.
So, they will send you off on all these different
I think
tangents.
AS, and I'm speaking about myself here, is mainly a gut disorder than a joint disorder because the joints are fine.
Yeah.
You just get attacked.
Well, that's where the gut comes into play because a lot of these autoimmune conditions are driven by dysbiotic environment in the gut, gut hyperpermeability, overgrowth of particular bacteria, things like that. So they're very strong drivers for a lot of people.
tell me that. When I changed my diet, got off wheat and all that, went to a wheat and dairy-free diet, my ass cleared up in a couple of months.
Yeah, we stopped feeding it those starchy, carbohydrates, the Klebsiellas, starved them off. So yeah, it's very, very strong driver. So there's an interesting study in Gut 2024.
Yep.
That linked dysbiosis to inflammatory bowel disease flares.
Oh, of course it does.
T helper 17 cells were 30% higher in leaky guts.
Because T helper 17 on a good day is the thing that actually helps to keep the gut in check.
Yeah.
So that's where T helper 17. So for me, I had a bad gut, with the stupid bacteria in there, and that triggered T helper 17, interleukin 17, and that just caused inflammation in my joints. Medically, they treat that now with antibodies to mop up the interleukin 17 instead of looking at it. Well,
Okay.
They use monoclonal antibodies to treat that.
Yeah,
and there's some for interleukin 6, interleukin 17, and they're the ones that like toxizumab is the one for interleukin 6. I can't remember all the other ones.
Yeah.
But so you just simply mop them up. But we as naturopaths go, well, why you got high levels of those?
That's right. Where is it coming from? What's driving it? So you need to fix the driver.
Yeah. Well, that's what we think. And that's why, I take a very low dose lithium mineral, and that gets rid of calcitonin-genilated peptide, regulates that so I don't get the migraines and cluster headaches anymore. So it's like, it's sort of like, what's coming. And lithium's in your diet anyway. Everyone eats lithium in their food. It's a mineral. It's in your earth and everything. So this is just a mineral that has all sorts of benefits in the body. Great treatment for Alzheimer's too.
Yeah.
You certainly think clearer on it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the gut. Then bacteria. So there's different bacteria. Obviously, we talk about Klebsiella, as we said, very, very strongly correlated with the ankylosing spondylitis.
I know.
Can you say that word? Poromyosis.
Oh, Poromonas gingivalis. That's the one that causes the
say it again. Poromyosis.
Yeah. Gingivalis,
Gingivalis. So basically it's a bacteria in the mouth.
Yes.
It's very hard to say, very ironic that it's a mouth bacteria.
Mouth one.
But this is interesting because this bacteria is strongly linked to rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, have seen a couple of clients that had rheumatoid arthritis. One of them was a 25-year-old male.
Whoa.
Yeah, really.
That's unusual age and sex.
Yeah, that's right. So we linked it back to he had a root canal it sort of started about 5 years earlier. So I'm like, okay, so let's look back. What happened 5 years and back from there?
Yeah.
Anything? And so I said, what about the mouth? Anything dental stuff? How's your oral health? Oh, I did have a root canal. Root canals, sorry to scare people, can be pretty common drivers of autoimmune conditions.
Should I want about
if they're not done properly, should I say? Because what happens if they're not done properly, the bacteria sits in there, it can't get out, so it starts eating through the mouth and gets into systemic circulation. And this particular bacteria that comes from the mouth, very strong driver of things like rheumatoid arthritis.
Shit.
So, it can be something as simple as cleaning up your oral health and, if you have any bacteria and things like that. But anyone that maybe has a autoimmune condition and has had root canals in the past, maybe look into that. There is, you can see holistic dentists that can actually redo or take it out altogether, depending what their recommendation is. But really, really interesting. And we managed to get this patient's rheumatoid arthritis under control and back into remission when we cleaned up the bacteria that was driving it. So it's really interesting. But anything in the mouth can be really strong drivers of many systemic conditions.
Oh, absolutely.
Autoimmunity can be a really big one.
I mean, a little bit off topic, but in the hospitals, if someone's got a cardiovascular disease, they always have a dental treatment because it's a very strong link.
That's
funny because my mum's cousin is a dentist. He's retired now.
Yeah.
I caught up with him on my mother's 70th birthday, and he came along and, we'll just come back from a great conference this weekend about how dental conditions can drive heart disease. And he look, he's a dentist, clean teeth, doesn't care about the heart. Yeah. But I said, because of interleukin 6 and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, how did you know that? And it's like, because that's one of the causes of heart disease, chronic inflammation.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's going, Yeah. And I said, C-reactive proteins. Go, He's like, well, how do I know all this dental stuff? And I was like, it's just the whole body. That's what naturopaths do. We look at the whole body.
Yes.
And that's what I don't, bit of a soapbox here. I don't like speciality to some degree because like my rheumatologist wouldn't give a shit about Klebsiella in the gut.
No, they're not trained to look at that. I mean, a specialist can be great in some areas. They do amazing things, but they're looking at one area. So they're looking at the body from a very mechanistic approach, not a systemic approach. So they're taking one. You can't segregate one area of the body and look at that and not look at anything else because everything connects and everything drives everything else. So so that's where functional medicine, natural medicine really comes into play. So, medicine is great for acute conditions.
Very good.
Or if you've shot yourself or cut your leg off, you go to a...
I'm not going to a naturopath.
No, do not go to a naturopath. Great for medicine like that, but general practitioner, that more for chronic stuff, they're not trained how to what's the word? Sort of look for the underlying cause. They're trained to treat the symptom.
Yes.
So that's really the difference. There's nothing wrong with medicine, but in its place, amazing. And surgery and all that. Surgeons do amazing things.
Oh yeah.
But on this level, if you're going to a specialist, so as you said, if you went because you had a sore back and it's coming from your gut, they're not going to pick that up. And that's another thing that's really common is it can take several years to actually get a diagnosis of an autoimmune condition. So people will go through so many, so many doctors and so many avenues, and they never get any answers. So it can take a long time. So that's another thing. If you're having a lot of symptoms and the people no one can give you an answer, start looking into possible autoimmune.
Absolutely,
things like that.
Absolutely.
So Streptococcus pyogenes is linked to rheumatic fever and psoriasis. Prevotella copperis.
Pyro means heat, so that's where like if you're a pyromaniac, it means I don't know if people make that link at home.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. Prevotella copperis, another really common one.
I used to be a pyromaniac.
You used to be a what?
Pyromaniac. I used to love lighting fires. Oh yeah, kind of still do.
My brother, he sometimes listens to these, sometimes doesn't. He burnt down our whole back fence one day.
Holy shit.
Not on purpose. So this was back in the day when we had incinerators in the backyard.
Oh, I remember
that. You used to burn off once a week?
Oh, yeah, we used to burn off. I used to rake the leaves up. Yeah. And the only reason I like raking the leaves up is so I could burn them.
Yeah.
We used to burn them in the gutters out the front.
Oh, in the gutters?
In the gutter.
Of your house?
Yeah.
Oh, in the gutter of the street?
No, the gutter of the street.
Of the house?
Everyone had burned their gutter. It was just like everyone light a fire there.
Oh, really? Wow.
Melbourne was... there's a song about Melbourne called I Remember.
Yeah.
And the part of the song is the burning leaves.
I see. We never burnt leaves. I'm fine.
Paul Kelly?
So, yeah.
I'm high on the hill looking over the bridge to the MCG.
Yeah.
And way up high, the clock on the Silas is 11 degrees. This is all about Melbourne. Yeah. And one of the lines is the burning leaves because everyone just burned their leaves in Melbourne because it was an autumn.
Yeah. We used to burn the leaves in the incinerator, not in the gutter. But
both for me.
But and the papers, and you'd have your box of papers in it. Yeah. So that was pretty normal back then.
All your magazines you wanted to burn.
Yeah. So my brother got a bit sort of excited and threw everything in, and just the fire went up, grabbed the massive big gum tree we had, which then took hold, then burnt the fence down. And Mum worked in an office, probably not far away. Yeah. Maybe 10 k's away or something. And she heard the fire engines go past. She goes, poor person. Wonder who that's for. And then go home and fence is back. The whole fence was gone.
So anyway, he's a pyromaniac. So anything pyro.
Well, he wasn't a pyromaniac, but so that was so that's rheumatic fever. Anyway, moving on. Prevotella copperis, as I said, really common to be overgrown in the gut as well, and that can be correlated with rheumatoid arthritis again, inflammatory bowel diseases. So the Prevotella mimics joint peptides, so drives up THAP17. H. pylori, really common bacteria, really common.
About 50% of people have that.
Yeah, 50% of people do.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So that can be, the link to there can be autoimmune gastritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis comes up a lot. Yeah.
So almost RA is almost an infectious disease, isn't it?
Almost, yeah. Candida albicans, so candida overgrowths can also drive things like psoriasis, inflammatory bowel diseases. So the candida sort of mimics that gut skin. It's the afternoon. I'm tired. I had my 4 hours sleep last night. So that's where that sort of connection is there. And Toxoplasmosis gondii. Yeah. So this is interesting. So toxoplasmosis mimics neuropeptides. THAP1, THAP17 hit the central nervous system and the eyes. Yes. So my mum had toxoplasmosis infection. She went blind.
Is that how she went blind?
in one, and the other one she had
that's right.
childhood glaucoma. So she used to joke that if she was obviously meant to go blind because if one didn't get her, the other one would.
Does she listen to this podcast?
Yeah, she does.
I better be nice to her. Good.
No, she likes the jokes about her.
Well, I've said jokes about her before, and it sounds distasteful. But
no, she loves it. She loves it. She should tell you more blind jokes than anyone you know.
Really?
Yeah, she's got lots of good blind jokes.
God, have you seen her new guide dog?
Neither is she. So microbes, parasites is another really can be another driver as well. So that's a really big one.
Yep.
And then obviously the gut we talked about, hyperpermeability.
Hyperpermeability is something that medicine didn't really embrace until very recently.
Which makes me laugh, because if the gut wasn't permeable, how do we absorb any nutrients?
Anything, yeah. And it's like, so are they to say that the same permeability is every single person ever?
Yeah.
Whether they've got inflamed gut or any, it's like, because we did have a weirdo kind of saying where we used to talk about leaky gut syndrome. And it's a real thing. We can test for it now, lactulose mannitol test medically and all that stuff. But in my day of the Bernard Jensen era of the 90s, we learned about it and it just made perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's like, it's leaking the wrong things into your bloodstream. And that can cause crap with your body. Of course it can.
Yeah.
So it's only now that this stuff is becoming real. I mean, antibodies to Klebsiella leak across and, it causes all sorts of problems and all sorts of bugs.
Yeah, well, they like particular phrasing. They don't like leaky gut, but they'll take gut hyperpermeability.
Oh, okay.
And we've said many times in the past that they put gluten in medications to open up, to activate that zonulin, to open up the gut junctions to get the medication in quicker. That's the medical profession that's done that. So they're putting gluten in because they know it opens the gap junctions and causes leaky gut. Yeah. But they didn't accept that leaky gut exists. So I don't understand the connection.
And a lot of, and I don't know about these days, but in the olden days, dietitians, when I used to have sort of barneys with them occasionally, they said that gluten was like, no, not bad for you unless you've got celiac. It's like, so it's either all or nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, how about it can cause some problems, and now we know gluten sensitivity is the thing.
Yeah.
And everyone's sensitive to something. If you eat a certain way and you feel like crap in the gut, then something's not right.
That's right.
Whether it's, and one man's food's another man's poison. So you could be fine. You could be fine with gluten. I seem to do all right in gluten, but until I get arthritis.
Yeah.
I don't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
Which is worse. I wish as soon as I ate gluten, I had symptoms.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have eaten the thing.
That's right. Exactly.
But shocking.
Crazy. So gut pathogens and things like that. So you want to go in, if you have any autoimmune condition, you haven't done any gut testing, I'd look at some gut testing, see what might be going on, whether you have any of these particular bacteria that can drive autoimmune conditions. Clean that up. And same with pathogens.
Yep.
And stealth pathogens and things as well. So all your envelope viruses, your hepatitis and things like that as well. You want to go in and do some antiviral herbals and things like that, or whichever way you want to go, but herbals can be really good there as well. And then environmental toxins is another really big one as well.
Oh, yes, with the silent agitators you've got here.
Silent agitators, yeah. So pesticides, environmental plastics, those forever chemicals, even cigarette smoke and things like that for some people can be very strong drivers. And then they go by this molecular mimicry again, so the same sort of driver that with the viruses and things like that. So toxins affect DNA or proteins, so they make them look foreign, so it sort of changes them. And then that activates those autoantibodies and inflammation because they go, oh, that's actually a foreign when it's really not. So interestingly, miners showed 3 times higher rheumatoid arthritis risks because of all the toxins and things from the mining industry.
They probably cop a double whammy where they don't get the vitamin D because they're underground all day. So wow,
So that molecular mimicry is what drives that through the mechanism, and then inflammation, oxidative stress.
Yep.
And then gut barrier disruption as well. So things like your BPAs or your PFAs, things like that, they can impact that gut lining, the gut mucosa, activate on the zonulin and things like that as well. So that's sort of some of the drivers, the mechanisms of how the toxins can actually trigger that.
Okay.
So, cleaning up your environment, making sure your body products and your cleaning products and even your cooking things like that can all be cleaned up, all be healthy and natural, so you're limiting your exposure to chemicals and toxins if you have an autoimmune condition.
Jeez.
Heavy metals, as I said, as well, are part of that as well. So fish can create, things like mercury or fillings in the mouth, so amalgam and fillings.
Jeez, we had a battle with that for years, didn't we?
Yeah, long time.
I remember the first time I went into a dentist and I needed my first filling, and she wanted to put mercury in there, and I said, no, I don't want to. I don't want mercury in there. Luckily I was a bit older, and it caused a big blow up, and I ended up leaving.
Yeah.
So just temporary do it. And I went to another dentist.
Yeah.
And I had to find because nowadays, my dentist, they don't use mercury at all.
That's all they use. Whereas, back then you could have. Well, when I've already got one filling, but I had it years ago.
Jeez.
But I had the choice of mercury or I didn't know what the material
porcelain-y,
is.
whatever it is, resiny stuff. Yeah,
so I chose that.
that could be problematic too. But I know mercury's bad.
Oh yeah, 100%. Mercury is really bad. So BPA, that can be quite bad. So that can mimic estrogen.
Yep, bisphenol A.
So that boosts the T helper 2.
Yep.
So that's really high in lupus. So people that have BPA that activates that immune response as well.
Jeez.
So all that sort of thing, pesticides and herbicides, air pollutants, and mold, really big one, and a really big problem, and probably a really big problem around Queensland will be in the next couple of months as well, mold with all the water.
We had a big cyclone here for those who are playing at home, and lots of rain everywhere. It's still raining.
I know, and they say it's going to be another big dump, but I think it's going more inland.
This week's going to be wet too.
Yeah,
on the Gold
Coast.
Coast.
Pretty nasty looking out there at the moment.
It's just rain everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's so humid.
It is humid, yeah. So those mold, perfect growing conditions for mold. Yeah. So mold can be a big factor as well. So you want to clean up your environment. And then another driver is stress.
Ugh.
Chronic stress.
Chronic.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. We recorded a podcast this morning. We talked about how bad stress was. Now we're talking about how bad it is for a different reason.
I know, for so many reasons, stress.
We're talking about how it affects your muscles. Now we're talking about how it causes, because people think they think stress suppresses the immune system.
Yeah.
It dysregulates the immune system.
Yeah.
The classic thing where you get stressed and you get the herpes breakout, that's stress suppressing it. But stress screws your immune system.
It does.
It screws every system in your body.
It does. Chronic stress does.
Yep.
Acute stress, yes, it's what we're designed to deal with acute stress perfectly fine. It's that chronic stress we're not really designed to deal with. So high cortisol sort of impacts your cytokines. And then low estrogen this is interesting. So low estrogen weakens the immune sort of issues as well. So that's why it's actually quite common for postmenopausal women to develop autoimmune conditions.
Because you go to the great regulator.
So not only does high estrogen have an impact, so does low estrogen. So that's really interesting as well. So, chronic stress, that it can worsen psoriasis and things like that. They can have psoriasis flares when you stress and things like that. So stress is a really big one. And then diet and nutrient sort of deficiencies can be part of it. Vitamin D is obviously talked about a lot with autoimmune conditions.
It's huge.
So vitamin D deficiency can double multiple sclerosis progression.
And we know that MS occurs more likely near the poles.
Yes.
On the equator, very low incidence where there's more sun.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So, I mean, in saying that, most of the clients I see with autoimmune conditions have very good levels of vitamin D because they're taking a lot of vitamin D. Good. So it's not going to fix it.
No.
But if you have a deficiency, it can definitely cause further, drive a little bit further. So there's some of the drivers when we're talking about autoimmune conditions.
So Nick, you're in practice. You Nicole Brown naturopathy, they can see you as a client. But what do you look for with testing and all that sort of stuff with your clients who you think have an autoimmune disease? What do you do?
So the first thing, as I said, I would do a gut microbiome test. Well, first of all, I would do a full blood panel.
Yep.
Depending on what they're presenting with. And if they know they have an autoimmune condition, that would sort of direct where we go. But definitely blood testing. And then I've picked up autoimmune conditions in patients that they don't know they've had one. So they've never been tested. So really common for Hashimoto's, really common to...
So you can test the antibodies.
Yeah, so they never known they had Hashimoto's and they've never been because they've never been tested for antibodies because it's not a standard test. No. So you have to ask your doctor, get your anti-nuclear antibodies tested as well. So definitely bloods and then your gut microbiome testing. So for any hyperpermeability or overgrowth, so say those particular bacteria that we talked about.
Sure.
Organic acid testing also is really good for looking at systemic health as well. So that can be really important one to do as well. And then we look at lifestyle factors, so your stress, your diet, your nutrition, your sleep, your all that sort of thing. So that all has to come into play as well. So then we sort of work on it and sort of fixing those drivers when we identify what the driver is, if it's a virus or a pathogen, if it's environmental toxins or if it's gut related, that sort of thing. And then you work on fixing that and then balancing that immune system again. So you really want to get in those herbs that help to balance that T helper 1, T helper 2 sort of ratio. And it can be really beneficial. I've had clients that go into remission. I've had clients that have that, it's definitely helped improve their symptoms a lot. But they can be tricky, and some are easier to treat than others, but there's always something you can do. So and I will tell the story quickly. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, that's right.
My mum had a really good friend for a long time who had rheumatoid arthritis years ago, and she was given drug after drug after drug, and she got to the point, so many steroids. She got to the point where she was so blown up, and she said, there's nothing I can do about it. The doctors have said there's nothing I can do. She had a really severe case, never went down the natural route, and she ended up dying a few years ago.
Sad.
But she died, she lost her vision. She was a mess because she'd been on these drugs for so long. So there is always something else you can do. There's definitely, even if you can't get fully into remission, there's so much you can do to improve your situation and reduce your symptoms so that you can actually function quite well. But a lot of the times, if you target the driver and eliminate that and then clean everything up and rebalance your immune system, then you can go into remission. So
I know.
Yeah, you're a perfect example.
Perfect example of it. I went to the gym this morning. I've still got a sore muscle in my back, but I'm getting that fixed on Thursday, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, this has been great. And what about some herbs? Just give us a few little quick herbs that you give to people to reduce inflammation. What are your faves?
So reducing inflammation would be omega-3s.
Yep.
Your SPM, so specialized pro-resolving mediators.
Wow.
So they're like a particular type of omega-3.
Yep.
Curcumin, boswellia, willow bark, quercetin, my favorite, ginger. And then balancing your immune system with your nutrients like your vitamin D, vitamin C, seleniums, zincs, things like that. Yep. And then herbally, there's so many that you can use for different things. So, if you're looking at viral or bacterial or that sort of thing, I love cat's claw for sort of stealth infections, viral infections and things like that. Withania, astragalus, depending on what you're doing. And medicinal mushrooms. I actually have had some really good results.
You're going to break the law? What sort of mushrooms?
I know.
Psilocybin? What is it? No.
I have had a few clients and I've said medicinal mushrooms and they said, no, I don't do that sort of thing. And I'm like, no, they're not magic mushrooms.
We're talking reishi and shiitake.
I mean, they're magic in what they do, but they're not actually magic.
Yeah, they're not going to get you high. They'll help your immune system.
They're very good immune modulators. Yeah. So there's immune stimulators, there's immune suppressors. You don't want anything too stimulating if you have an autoimmune condition because you're already stimulated, but you want to modulate. So I find medicinal mushrooms, like your reishis, maitakes, cordyceps, those sort of things, morphoporia, amazing. Andrographis, astragalus, things like that. There's so many amazing herbs out there. So look for the underlying cause, treat the underlying cause, and you can actually get yourself back into remission if you do all the right things.
Brilliant, Nick. Well, that's better we've got time for.
Yeah.
So I'll see you next week. Have a good one.
See you guys.
See ya.